Kasapa Bante, Abbot of Mahabodhi Society, would like to offer his respect to Achan. Achan, can I start?
Oh, start whenever you want.
Okay.
I don't think it's gonna. I don't think there's gonna be a clear start or a clear finish. Yeah, yeah. That's what you announce. You go first.
Yeah. Namo Buddhaya. Okay. So it is time for the last activities, last meaningful activities, I must say, of today. That is the Dhamma talk. अभी सभी लोग सेटल हो जाइए आज के आखिरी सेशन धम्मा प्रवचन पर हम लोग पहुँचे हैं सो अगर आप सब सेटल है now I would like to request most respected Achan Pasanno to offer the light to Triple Gem. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. Thank you so much. Now I would like to request Madam Wangmo Dixie to give a introduction to today's Dhamma speaker, to Madam Wangmo.
A very good evening to all of you sitting under the beautiful, most sublime sacred Bodhi tree. Tonight we gather again to hear the precious Dhamma teachings by Venerable Ajahn Pasano, who I'm very honored to introduce this evening. Ajahn Pasano was born in July 26, 1949, and is one of the most senior Western disciples of Venerable Ajahn Chah. Among Ajahn Chah's Western students, he is the most senior living disciple after Longpo Somedo and Ajahn Kema Damo. For many years, Ajahn Pasano served as the abbot of Wat Pa Nanachat, the International Forest Monastery in northeast Thailand, founded for training Western monastics in the Thai forest tradition. In the late 1990s, he moved to California to establish and lead Abhagiri Monastery, where he continued his decades of dedicated service in guiding and training monks and lay practitioners. With over 40 years as a bhikkhu, Ajahn Pasano has played a pivotal role in nurturing the monastic community in both Thailand and in the United States. He is widely respected for his wisdom, humility, and steadfast support for training opportunities for both men and women. On December 5th, 2015, at the Temple of the Emerald Buddha, Wat Phra Kiao in Bangkok, Ajahn Pasano received the distinguished title of Chao Kung and the monastic name of Pra Bodhgaya de Wid Sa, bestowed by the Crown Prince of Thailand on behalf of His Majesty King Bhumibol Adulyadej. This rare honor reflects his exceptional contribution to the Thai monastic tradition, especially noteworthy as such recognition is seldom granted to Western monks. So it is with great honor that we invite Ajahn Pasano, and this evening's talk will be as long as Ajahn Pasano would like it to go. So it can be short, medium, or long. We will see how long it goes. Thank you. No need for translation.
Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Buddhang Dhammang Sanghang Namasami. Okay, so this evening, just invite everyone to sit quietly, be comfortable, and there's a lot going on right now. So paying attention to a Dhamma talk is not so easy. But the opportunity always for listening to the Dhamma, listening to the teachings of the Buddha, and especially in this particular place, is to bring to mind the recollection of what we're actually doing here. I think everybody is here to pay respects to the Buddha and to the Dhamma and to the Sangha. And this sense of the being at the place of the Buddha's awakening, being here in this auspicious consecrated ground, is a blessing to all of us who are here. But also, how do we make this teaching of the Lord Buddha's relevant for us? How do we make it alive for us? And of course, we've just one of the aspects of the Buddha's teaching that we always chant and recollect is the nature or the qualities of the Dhamma. And one of them is the Santitika Dhamma. Santitiko, we chant this all the time. But that means to be apparent here and now. And of course it's so important. We are reflecting and investigating on the nature of this teaching, and for it to be, how do we make this apparent here and now for ourselves? And of course the Dhamma is always here for us to be understood, to be seen, to be penetrated, but we have to set our hearts in an appropriate place in order for that to manifest. So to be reflecting on this nature of the Dhamma, because say, as the Buddha himself said, whether a Tathagata arises in the world or does not arise in the world, the nature of things is still the same. All conditioned things are impermanent. All conditioned things are unsatisfactory. Everything is not self. And this is a timeless teaching. But in order to for it to be truly timeless, we have to see it clearly for ourselves. So that's our task. And of course, one of the aspects of the teaching is as this, say, recitation, the Tipitaka recitation. Right now we are reviewing and doing the chanting of the Vinaya Pitaka, which is the section in the collected teachings of the Buddha that are concerned with in a narrow sense, the Vinaya is the rules for the monastic community. But in a larger sense, what it's really pointing to is sila, or the virtue. And whether we are monastics, monks or nuns, whether we are lay people, men or women, lay men, lay women, one of the foundations of our training is this commitment to sila, and it's such an important foundation. Again, whether we're monastics or lay people, and certainly one of the every year at all of the Ajahn Chah monasteries, one of the things that we always do is a reviewing, having classes on the Vinaya, and there's in the same way that I began the Dhamma talk with Namo Tassa Bhagavato and then Buddhang Dhammang Sanghang Namasami, paying respects to the Buddha, Dhamma and Sangha, we'll always begin with, of course, chanting the Namo Tassa, but then there's a little phrase, Vinaya Sasana Ayuti. The Vinaya, the discipline, the training, is the lifeblood of the sasana. So that if there is a commitment to this training, and again, it's the monastic training is a model for those who are monastics, but it's a model for the lay community as well, in the sense that in order for the lay community to be inspired, they have to have good examples. And so that's something that we can be doing, say, with this human life, which is so precious, to be setting a good example for our fellow monastics, but also for the lay community. And this is what gives life to this teaching. That's what has, because on a certain level, say the Buddha's teachings can be very, very ideal, and even if you think of the ideals of, mindfulness and wisdom and loving kindness and compassion, it's a lovely ideal. But if the sila is not there, it's hard for the fruition of these ideals. And it's sort of so that I think it's important, of course it's important to have ideals, but how do we lay the foundation so that those ideals can be realized, can be experienced? And so this sense of training is so important for all of us. And the sense of, and this is of course, this is clear in the taking of like for the lay people, the taking of the 5 precepts. Just taking the example of the first precept, Panatipata Veramani Sikkhapadang Sammadhiyami, so that I undertake, which is Sammadhiyami, I undertake Sikkhapadang, the training. And it's so important to realize that this is what the Buddha gave is a training, a teaching that is about education. How do we educate ourselves in being a complete human being, so that the sila is always a foundation. It goes those fundamental precepts, so that even as a monastic, everything for the bhikkhus, 227 precepts, but they really are grounded in those 5 fundamental precepts for the lay people, that not harming, so that you're not harming. Panati, I undertake the training to refrain from taking the life of any living creature. And it's just as a simple determination, but to live with harmlessness as the foundation. Adina dana, to not taking what isn't given. This is so important so that because one of the aspects of all these precepts is the result that comes from that. Because the result is when you live with people who are keeping precepts, you can live with a sense of trust. And that's so important. It's my country of residence right now is America. And there's not much trust there. There's not much trust. And I think India is always a chaotic country. Who do you trust? I mean, I've lived in Thailand for many, many years, and who do you trust? Well, you trust who keeps the precepts. So that there was I remember my teacher, Ajahn Chah, he traveled to the West twice, and I think it was on his second trip when he went to America. And anyway, it was at an airport, and it looked like a kind of a distinguished gentleman came up to him and started talking to him. Ajahn Chah did not speak English, so it worked through a translator, his attendant monk. And the person saw how he was dressed, and he said, are you from Thailand? And he said, yes, I'm from Thailand. So, are you a Buddhist monk? He said, oh yes, I'm a Buddhist monk. And in Thailand, are most people Buddhists? He said, oh yes, most people are Buddhists. He said, well, if that's the case, why are there so many thieves in Thailand? And Ajahn Chah's response was, well, the Buddha didn't tell them that, they do that themselves. So that even if we're Buddhists, we still have to keep the precepts. Even if we're Buddhists, we still have to pay attention to who we spend time with, who do we draw close to. And you always want to draw close to people who you have a bond of trust with. And so that this foundation of precepts is so essential for our well-being. And the Buddha speaks of it in one discourse. He talks about the 5 precepts as an act of great dana, mahadana. He said there's 5 forms of great dana. Of course, everybody is always, as soon as you say, oh, there's an opportunity for a great dana, everybody's ears go up. So they think, oh, I'm going to make merit. I'm going to get in on all this merit making. But then when the Buddha says, well, what are the 5 great gifts? The 5 great gifts: not killing any living beings, not taking what isn't given, not committing sexual misconduct, not lying, not taking intoxicants. This is great dana. And he said, why is this great dana? Why is this a great gift? Because it gives the gift of safety. It gives the gift of compassion. It gives the gift of trust. And this sense of security is so important to the human condition. And so that this commitment to sila is essential. And of course, even more so for the monastics, in the sense that we have a higher degree of training rules that we have made the commitment to taking on, and it's important for the monastics to take it seriously. It's important for the lay people to also take it seriously, because this is always a combined effort. The Buddha always pointed to the parisa, the Buddhist community has always been monks, nuns, laymen, laywomen, and it's always talked about in that way, and so that there is a need for the say again the monastics to teach and train, but also for the lay people to study and have a good knowledge of the foundation, so they can help support the carrying on of the tradition. And in some ways, in some cases, the lay people have had to take initiative to help. It's like in the time of the Buddha, there was a time of quarreling and schism in the Sangha. Was it Vaisali? I think it was in Vaisali. And anyway, there was a time of, and the monks weren't listening to the Buddha, and so that the Buddha decided to just pack it in and go and retreat. And it was the lay people who resolved the situation. So that this sense of mutual depending on each other and it's important of course, for all of us to be taking it really seriously. And as we do that, everybody benefits, and we all uplift the sasana in that way. So this is our opportunity for, and certainly coming to a place like this on an occasion like this is an opportunity for renewing one's commitment to uplifting oneself, to really taking this opportunity that we have to grow and flourish in the way that the Buddha gave us. So this sense of reflecting and understanding the nature of our opportunity. Also and I think when we think of and I'm thinking, coming back again to say to Vinaya and the monastic training, it's not just the major rules that are important. the minor rules are very important as well, because those are the things that give the in samana sanya, the perception of being a religious seeker, so that when we're well established in both the major and the minor rules of the training, then there is this perception of being a samana, a religious seeker, and that helps to uplift ourselves, but it helps to uplift our fellow monastics, helps to uplift the lay community. And so this sense of the minor rules, just how to look after our robes properly, how to look after the dwelling place. In the Pali, and it's the vatas, the duties that we have to our requisites, the duties that we have to our teachers, the duties that we have to incoming bhikkhus, to guests, the duties that we have towards sick bhikkhus. All of these different duties help to define us as samanas, as religious seekers. And as we internalize that, embody that, then it helps us to really rise up to the opportunity to receive, to really receive the blessings of the Buddha. So that, and as we do that, of course, that encourages the lay community. See, everybody benefits. So that just this sense of understanding the role of the Vinaya, because sometimes it's just, in terms of the history in terms of the Buddhist history, it's the first thing that the monks started to quarrel about after certainly at the schism at Vesali, it was about a Vinaya rule. 100 years after the Buddha passed away, it already broken up into about 18 different groups, and it was all about minor things about Vinaya. So it can, if you take it just as something rules that you're trying to get purity from, you're going to be dissatisfied, and you're going to end up in conflict with others. But if you realize, why am I keeping these rules? What is the purpose? And certainly the sense of the cultivation of the perception of being a samana, being a religious seeker. And you think just the circumstance of early days of the dispensation when the Buddha started teaching, and Sariputta was a religious seeker in a different sect. He was following a different teacher, and he went into town. He saw a monk, disciple of the Buddha, who was Asaji, who was one of the first 5 bhikkhus who trained with the Buddha and realized arahantship. But Sariputta, say, as a young seeker from a different path, saw the Venerable Asaji on alms round, and the thought came to his mind. He was inspired immediately, and the thought came to his mind: this must be a fully enlightened Buddha, or he must be a disciple of a fully enlightened Buddha. Just seeing the demeanor and so this sense of the perception of a religious seeker, the samana sanya, was immediately imprinted, and that was something that drew Sariputta to be asked for teachings, and of course the result was a very short teaching by Asaji. Ye he tu papawa was it, which was pointing to the the nature of all things being dependent on causes and conditions. And when we understand causes and conditions, we understand the arising of suffering and the ending of suffering. So it's a very short teaching, but Sariputta was realized stream entry. And then rather than going and seeking out the Buddha immediately, he went and visited his friend Mahamoggallana, and then they went together to pay respects to the Buddha. But the cause was that seeing a good monk, seeing having that perception of a samana, of a religious seeker who is well practiced, and so that that's something that we have the opportunity to do as monastics, as disciples of the Buddha. And it's an incredible gift to be able to do that. And you realize that it is really quite universal. As monastics, if we're well behaved, people are drawn to the example, and there's something very different happening. So it's so that even I've lived in the West now for almost 30 years, and it's always inspiring to me to see how people respond to, say, my own just interactions, and they're not Buddhists. They don't know anything about Buddhism, but there's something that sparks an interest oftentimes. And if they just ignore you, that's fine as well. But in general, people are there's something that sparks an interest in an ordinary human person, and it's that universal quest for peace and clarity in our life. And of course that's what draws those of us who have taken monastic vows. There is that draw to peace and clarity. And so that we want to facilitate that or try to support that as much as possible. And as we do that, there is this sense of other people being able to benefit. And because that's as I said, it's a universal wish, it's a universal desire. Nobody gets up in the morning, goes to brush their teeth and wash their face and look in the mirror and say, how can I be more miserable today? Nobody does that. Everybody wants to be happy, everybody wants to be peaceful. But the problem with the human condition is ignorance. Just not having the clarity to understand, to see clearly. So then we want to lay those foundations that help us to maximize our opportunity. And again, this sense of training is so important. The willingness to train, willingness to and my teacher Ajahn Chah was somebody who was, say, a master at training people, and he was a monk from the very northeast of Thailand. Even in Thailand, where Ajahn Chah is from, that is considered a backwater, and it's not considered sophisticated area. It's a very country area, And Ajahn Chah never knew any English, and people would oftentimes ask him, how can you teach? Because there were many Westerners came to train with Ajahn Chah, and they would ask him, how can you teach these Westerners? They don't know Thai, and you don't know English. And he said, it's not difficult. He said, just like teaching buffalo. You pull them this way, you pull them that way, they'll learn. So I mean, it's funny even for Indian people to think comparing a Westerner to a buffalo, but similar in Thailand. It's just very, this is a funny comparison, but it's true. Just as any, whether you're a human being or an animal, we can all learn. But it takes somebody who's willing to, pull you this way and push you that way a little bit. And of course, that's what the Buddha did. He said, he pushes us in a way to, be restrained. Have your sense of restraint of the senses. Have restraint of contentment with your requisites. He was pushing you in the way of restraint and contentment. Be giving, be sharing, but then also be refrained, and pull it back from unskillful conduct, unskillful behavior. So these are very basic impulses that we all have, but we can all learn. And I think that's one of the aspects that is central to the Buddha's teaching. Is that this is a training, it is a learning opportunity, so that even when we think of the precepts, in Pali it's sikkhapadam, in Sanskrit it's suksa, and suksa means to learn, to study. You're studying, but you're studying the human condition. You're learning about how to be free from suffering and how to refrain or restrain oneself from creating suffering for others. So that these are very fundamental foundations of this thing we call human life. And the Buddha's confident that we can learn. Otherwise, that was exactly what the Buddha said on the night of his enlightenment. He said he felt sort of overwhelmed, and that, how can I teach this? This is so subtle, so refined. But then of course the images of the Brahma Sahampati coming and requesting the Buddha was the heart of compassion. Arising. Yes, there are beings with little dust in their eyes who will understand this. And so that I think anybody who has made the effort to come here and join this auspicious occasion, already has little dust in their eyes. It's just we have to keep working at it. And so it's really, really important. And so that in that sense of reflecting, investigating, you also have to reflect on what's the purpose on keeping rules, keeping, say, for the sense of for monks, keeping the Vinaya, but also for lay people, keeping those precepts, and of course, as I said, the sense of trust that arises. But internally, what the Buddha says? There's a discourse where Ananda asked the Buddha, "What is the benefit of sila?" And the Buddha points to the benefit of sila is non-remorse, and that sense of not having to regret anything. And I don't know about anybody else, but there's certainly been things that I have said or done or thought. I said, shouldn't have done that. So I think this is just, that's what we're all like. But when there's this commitment to sila, just being able to circumvent or to prevent that sense of remorse coming, and to be able to dwell in non-remorse. But then non-remorse is a condition. It's a condition for the arising of delight. And that sense of delight is such an important aspect of finding delight in the Dhamma, finding a sense of well-being in the Dhamma, and so that, and then that again, that's sort of, you're starting to set things in motion of this sense of delight arising. And with the sense of delight that arises, there's the arising of piti, and the sense of joy. And this is a natural process. These are not, it's not something that has to be, it's the image that the Buddha gives of rain coming down on a mountaintop. When the rain comes on a mountaintop, it's going to flow down. And as that flowing down of non-remorse, of delight, flowing into joy. From a sense of joy is a cause and condition for the arising of tranquility, passaddhi. And the sense of passaddhi is the foundation for the experience of sukha, of happiness. And then it's very interesting. The next step that the Buddha says, the experience of happiness, of sukha, is the cause and condition for the arising of samadhi. And so often, I don't know about anybody, again, I don't know about anybody else, but I know for myself, I spent many years just, boy, if I could just get my samadhi together, then I'd be happy. And you put a tremendous amount of effort, pushing and forcing, and getting more tense. And so that, and of course, that's what happens when you do it. You don't follow the Buddha's teaching. The Buddha says, lay that foundation for happiness. And of course, the happiness is all based on skillful action, sila, kusala, the kusala dhammas, the wholesome qualities that we lay a foundation in, non-remorse, the sense of delight that arises because of that, joy, tranquility, happiness, and samadhi naturally arises. So just learning how to pay attention. How do I nurture that skillful well-being and happiness so that samadhi, the mind is happy to be settled. The mind is happy to be with itself. Because so much of our energy goes to trying to get out of ourselves. That's why we're drawn into sense pleasures. Just trying to get, we're actually very boring people. And the mind looks for distraction. So then to be able to be settled in well-being, to be settled in delight, to be settled in happiness, and it's a physical and mental, emotional happiness that the mind is then happy to be present with just the Dhamma. And you can stay with the breath, you can stay with loving kindness, you can stay with mindful, the 32 parts of the body, you can stay with perceptions of emptiness, but that foundation of happiness and well-being is so important. And as again, the Buddha continues that same theme of the causes and conditions, so that with the establishing of samadhi as the cause and condition, then there's the arising of knowledge and vision of the way things truly are. Yatha bhuta jnana dasanam. So that, again, it's not something that has to be forced, but as the mind becomes settled and steady and clear, we're already hardwired. We want to be free from suffering. And so that the mind, so much of practice is learning how to get out of the way of our unskillful habits and our habitual tendencies. So that and vinaya and sila are really the foundation to be able to facilitate that, make that happen. And because then as we see things clearly, then the aspect of dispassion and relinquishment are natural as well. When you see clearly that this is a heavy burden, one wants to put it down. And our minds can be very heavy burdens. Spending our life following our moods is a heavy burden. Following our life, following our opinions is a heavy burden. And so being able to put that down and resting in clarity and stillness. And this is a stillness, we're not just trying to force it on one, but it's like, at one time there was a monk who I got to know, and he came and trained with Ajahn Chah. And he came to seek Ajahn Chah after he had had some actually quite amazing meditation experiences. And he was able to stay in samadhi for long periods of time. But then for something drew him to Ajahn Chah. And Ajahn Chah took him under his wing, which is sometimes not the most comfortable thing. So, because he would have him as his attendant, and as an attendant you have to pay attention to what's needed, what's happening, what's appropriate for the situation. And sometimes, especially with a big Ajahn like Ajahn Chah, sometimes you can be meeting all sorts of different people, and some of them are interesting and some of them are boring. And so the monk who would, if something was interesting, he could be engaged, but if it got a little bit boring or a little bit worldly, then he'd turn his mind to samadhi, to just push it away. And as soon as he did that, Ajahn Chah would ask him to go get something for him, or to go clean something for him. And he would never let him settle in samadhi. He was always, and the monk got very frustrated. And finally he decided, this is too much, I can't stay here, this is not appropriate, I'm leaving. And he came to pay respects to Ajahn Chah to take leave. And Ajahn Chah said to him, well, yes, you're welcome to leave. You can go back to your cave and learn how to be peaceful there. Or you can stay here and learn how to be peaceful anywhere. So, and he stayed. So that sense of being able to, you realize, this is a Santitika Dhamma, this is apparent here and now. But you have to be ready to see that. You can't force it, you can't just push it. You have to lay the conditions very, very solidly, very steadily, so that you can grow into this Dhamma and be able to recognize it clearly. And of course, as I said, one of the really solid foundations is this discipline and training. The Vinaya is really important, and just as particularly for all the monastics who are here, just to really encourage to take an interest in Vinaya. Again, it's one of the things that tends to easily drop by the wayside, but when it's when one is well established, then it's a great support for oneself, one's community, and for the lay community around, and then for the lay people to have a good sense of what is a good standard of practicing sila and virtue. Because it's so important for our truly growing in this Dhamma. The Buddha didn't teach a religion. The Buddha always said this is the Dhamma Vinaya. It is this teaching and this training that is what he's passing on to us. And people in the end start taking on religion, but forgetting what the purpose is. And the purpose is for understanding Dhamma Vinaya, understanding the teaching, understanding the training. So just, and I think just an encouragement for everyone to explore that, because it will be for one's own welfare and benefit, and for the benefit of all sentient beings. So I'll offer that for reflection this evening.
नमो बुद्धाय। आज अजहान प्रसन्नो भंते जी बहुत सुंदर सा धम्म देशना दिए हैं। मन को बहुत खुशी और शांति लाने के धम्म दिए हैं। भंते जी 1949 में पैदा हुआ है। अभी थाईलैंड में भंते बन के बहुत साल रहा। फिर उसके बाद अभी कैलिफोर्निया में वहाँ अभयगिरी बोल के विहार करके वहाँ पे रहते हैं। तो भंते जी बताए कि अभी हम लोग मनुष्य होते हुए क्या करते हैं, दिन भर क्या करते हैं, क्या सोचते हैं। हम लोग इधर क्यों आए हैं? इधर इसलिए आए हैं कि इधर पूजा करने के लिए आए हैं, भगवान को वंदना करने के लिए आए हैं, भगवान का आशीर्वाद के लिए है। मगर उसको कैसा पाना है? भगवान बुद्ध तो यहीं पे धम्म को सीखने का धर्म दिया है। जैसे कि सब बदल अनित्य है, दुख है, अनात्मा है, ये सब का बारे में तो दिए हैं। और दूसरा और एक हम लोग जो पाठ कर रहे हैं, विनय पिटक को पाठ कर रहे हैं, तो ये सब धम्म है। अभी विनय में हम लोग देखते हैं कि ये सब नियम का बारे में है जैसा, मगर बड़ा रूप से जब देखेंगे तो ये तो हमारा मन को बदलावट करने वाला हम लोगों का वर्ताव का बारे में है, जो हमारा जीवन का आधार है। भगवान बुद्ध एक बार बताए हैं कि विनय जो है शासन का आयु है, वही जान है। शासन, बुद्ध शासन का जान। जब तक विनय है शासन रहेगा, जब विनय नहीं है शासन नहीं रहेगा। और उससे अच्छा से रहने से गृहस्थ लोगों का अंदर भी बहुत श्रद्धा जागती है। अभी ज्ञान हो गया, मैत्री हो गया, करुणा हो गया, ऐसा बड़ा बड़ा बातें हम लोगों को तो चाहिए, मगर वो सब शील का ऊपर ही निर्भर है। 5 शील आप लोग जो लेते हैं वही सबका आधार है। भंते लोगों का 227 शील है, मगर वो भी आखिर में ये 5 का ऊपर ही निर्भर है। अभी शील होने से क्या होता है? विश्वास जगती है, दूसरे लोगों का विश्वास और अपना खुद का आत्मविश्वास भी सब ये होते हैं। तो ये 5 शील को, उसको 5 महादान भी बोल सकते हैं, जो आप लोग दुनिया को दे सकते हैं। जब 5 शील पालन करेंगे तो दुनिया को बहुत सुख शांति दे सकते हैं। तो इसीलिए चाहे भंते लोग हो या गृहस्थ लोग हो, ये अपना शील को बहुत गंभीरता के साथ लेना चाहिए। अभी जैसे कि भगवान के समय जब भंते लोग लड़ाई किया तो भगवान उनको बताया मत करो, फिर भी वो लोग लड़ाई किया तो भगवान चला गया जंगल में। तब तो ये उपासक लोग ही उसको मिलाए थे, अच्छा ये किए थे। तो एक का ऊपर एक निर्भर है, भंते लोग उपासक लोगों का ऊपर, उपासक का लोग भंते का ऊपर। तो इसी तरह ये जो विनय है वो तो सिर्फ नियम नहीं है, ये जो है एक समन है, एक भंते होने का। मैं भंते हूँ बोल के बोलने के लिए वो बार बार याद दिलाते हैं, छोटा छोटा नियमों से भी। अभी जैसे चिवर पहनने का हो गया, कपड़ा पहनने का हो गया, पर भंते लोगों का जो अपना कर्तव्य है, अपना गुरु जी का प्रति, अपनी अतिथि लोगों के प्रति या किसी के प्रति जो भी है अपना, वो सबको याद दिलाते हैं। तो ये सब क्या देता है बोलने से भगवान बुद्ध का आशीर्वाद और मन का जागना। तो जैसे भगवान बुद्ध महापरिनिर्वाण के बाद 100 साल के बाद बड़ा बड़ा चीज़ का ऊपर लड़ाई नहीं हुआ, छोटा छोटा नियमों के बारे में भंते लोगों में ये हो के 18 ग्रुप्स बन गए थे। तो इसीलिए इसका ऊपर ये करना है। भंते जी अस्सजी भंते के बारे में बताया, जो सारिपुत्र भंते बनने से पहले उन्होंने देखा, उनका चाल चलन देख के ही उनका मन परिवर्तन हो गया। और ये धम्मा हेतु बाबा जब सुना, एक गाथा सुन के वो परिवर्तन हो के महामोगल्लाना भंते को भी बोल के परिवर्तन किया। इस तरह ये तो अपना चाल चलन से वही सब शील है। तो भंते जी बोलते हैं कि 30 साल उधर पश्चिम में रहा, वहाँ लोग देखते हैं और देख के वो लोग बहुत मन में बहुत खुशी हो जाते हैं, भंते से बात करते हैं, सुनते हैं। मगर सब लोग तो चाहते हैं खुशी, मगर अज्ञान का कारण से वो लोग नहीं देख पाते हैं। अभी अचन शाह जो भंते जी का गुरु जी थे, वो तो गांव से थे, उनको तो न तो इंग्लिश आता है न कुछ नया दुनिया का तो मालूम नहीं था। मगर वो भंते जी को पूछा आप कैसा मैनेज करते हैं, इतना विदेशी लोग आके आपका शिष्य बनते हैं। तो भंते जी बताए वो तो बहुत आसान है, वो तो मुश्किल का बात नहीं है। जैसे एक गाय को एक भैंस को जैसे आप सिखाते हैं वैसे सिखा दिया तो ये लोग सीख जाते हैं बोल के। तो ऐसा बहुत मतलब क्या है बोलने से सिखाने के लिए तो हमेशा ये लंबा चौड़ा भाषा ही ज़रूरत नहीं है, मगर अपना चाल चलन में कंट्रोल करना और सभी कुछ साथ बांटना और कुशलता के साथ जीना। अभी सिक्खा पदंग बोलने से क्या है, सिक्खा बोलते हैं और शिक्षा बोलते हैं ना हम लोग। तो ये जो शिक्षा है ये तो हमारा मन को ट्रेनिंग करने का है, ये जो है हमारा बहुत ज़रूरी है बोल के बोला। ट्रेनिंग करना, अपने आप को कैसा ये सिखाना है। अभी भगवान बुद्ध जब सिखाने के लिए सोच रहे थे, इतना गंभीर धम्म को कैसा सिखाएं, तो ब्रह्म सहमपति आके रिक्वेस्ट किया। तो उस समय भगवान देखा कि थोड़ा थोड़ा धूली है, तो वो लोग ठीक होके देख सकेंगे धम्म को। तो बनते बताए कि आप लोग भी इधर आए हैं तो इसका मतलब है आप लोगों का भी अंदर थोड़ा धूली है, मगर काम कीजिए आपका भी अच्छा हो जाएगा। मतलब ज्ञान देख सकेगा, सच्चाई को देख सकेगा। तो ये शील को क्यों रखता है? शील से विश्वास बढ़ता है। शील से भगवान को पूछा गया तो भगवान बताया शील से क्या फायदा है। शील से ये है कि पश्चाताप नहीं होगा। मतलब कुछ गलती किया, मैंने गलती किया, ऐसा पश्चाताप, मन नहीं जलेगा। तो ये मन नहीं जलेगा तो क्या फायदा होगा? वो जो है मन में खुशी लाएगा, आनंद लाएगा। आनंद, खुशी ये सब आ गया तो क्या हो जाएगा? मन मन बहुत आनंदित होगा, उससे प्रशांत हो जाएगा, प्रशांति से सुख आ जाएगा। सुख जो है हमारा मन का एकाग्रता समाधि का कारण बनता है। तो एक देखिए, शील से ही पूरा वहां तक पहुंच जाता है। अगर वो शील नहीं है तो ये मन में खुशी भी नहीं होगा, ये प्रशांति भी नहीं आएगा, सुख भी नहीं होगा, समाधि भी नहीं आएगा। तो इसीलिए जब ये शील को आप बढ़ाएंगे तो शील से ही खुशी से रहना है। अभी मन जो है इधर उधर भागता है, बाहर में खुशी ढूंढता है, मगर वो बाहर खुशी कितना ढूंढने से भी फिर भी और ढूंढते रहता है। और कभी कभी बोलता है मुझे ये अच्छा नहीं लगता, वो अच्छा नहीं लगता है। धम्म बोलने से खुशी से रहने को सीखना है। चाहे वो हम लोग मैत्री के समय भी खुशी रहना है, अपना सांस के साथ भी खुशी रहना है, अपना शरीर का अंग को देखते हुए भी खुशी रहना है। ये हर एक क्षण में हम लोग खुशी रहने के लिए वो कारण बन जाता है। और जब ऐसा मन है, ऐसा मन ही यथाभूत ज्ञान दर्शन, मतलब जैसे है वैसी देखने का, ज्ञान को बढ़ाने का आधार बन जाता है। तो देखिए शील से ही सब कुछ होता है। वहां तक आखिरी हंत तक भी पहुंचने के लिए वही चाहिए। सामान्य रूप से देखने से लोग अपना बहुत सिर पे बहुत भारी एक वजन उठा के घूम रहा है, मतलब मन में अपना वजन उठा के घूम रहा है। अभी जब अच्छा से मन शांति हो गया तो वजन को नीचे फेंकने का जैसा है, बहुत हल्का हो जाएगा। अभी अचंचा बंते जी का गुरुजी वो मेडिटेशन का बारे में और एक बताया। एक शिष्य आए, वो पहले से ही समाधि करके मन में बहुत एकाग्र में रहते थे, समाधि का आनंद में रहते थे। वो आके अचंचा बंते जी के पास आए। तो जब अचंचा बंते के पास आया तो बंते जी देखते थे कि ये छोटा मोटा बाहर का चीज को देख के उससे दूर होके हट के अपना समाधि में रहते थे। तो अचंचा बंते जी उनको हमेशा काम में लगाते थे। वो जब भी उधर मन को अपना भाग के जाना मांगता था तो उनको काम में लगाते थे। तो उनको वो जो है मन में चंचलता होके उनका मन में अच्छा नहीं लगा। तो उन्होंने सोचा कि अचंचा भंते जी को छोड़ के दूसरा कहीं जाएगा। वो आया भंते के पास आके बताया मैं जा रहा हूँ। तो भंते जी बोला ठीक है, क्यों? अभी उसका तो उसको तो शांति चाहिए, मन में समाधि चाहिए हमेशा। तो भंते जी ने बोला ठीक है जाओ, तुम जाके अपना गुहा में बैठो। अगर वहां गया तो जब तक तुम गुहा में हो तब तक तुमको शांति रहेगा। अगर यहाँ करके सीखोगे तो तुम जहां भी जाओ सब जगह में सुख शांति से रहने को सीख जाओगे बोल के बोला। तो ये बात को सुन के उन्होंने फिर भंते जी के पास ही रहा। तो ज्ञान बढ़ाने के लिए वो चाहे यहाँ हो वहाँ हो कहीं भी हो, संदिग्ध का मतलब हर समय हर जगह में देखने का, धम्म को देखने का और मन को शांति रखने का रास्ता है। तो इसीलिए भंते जी आखिरी बात बताया, विनय में ले लो। इधर जितना भंते लोग है विनय में इंटरेस्ट ले लो। और ये जो धम्म विनय है ये जो है भगवान बुद्ध का संदेश है और ये एक ट्रेनिंग है, हम लोगों को सीखने का चीज़ है। तो यही दो चीज़ छोड़ के और कुछ भी तो है ही नहीं। तो ये आप लोग थोड़ा गंभीरता के साथ सोचिए, यही हमारा देन है, बोल के मनते जी बताया। साथ
Venerable Ajahn Basano, thank you so much for being with us tonight and for being able to share with us practical wisdom of applying the Dhamma in our life and creating the conditions for us to see more clearly. Usually we have a chance for the audience to ask one or two questions. Would that be okay? So we'd like to offer maybe just two questions for the audience.
Vandami Vante, I do have two questions to ask you. First question is, when Buddha got enlightenment, he saw his previous births and it was infinite. So the question is, did he comment anything on the origin of the universe? And
What was that?
Did he comment anything on the origin of the universe?
No. He said it's useless. He said it's a waste of time. He's trying to figure out what's really important is the end of suffering rather than the origin of the universe. Because there is no, it's a beginningless and endless process. But within that beginningless and endless process, one can be completely free and at peace. And it's better to shoot for being free and at peace rather than trying to figure out either the origins or the endings of the universe.
thank you. My second question is everything predetermined? Is everything predetermined? Or is everything destined in our life?
Oh, no, not at all. This is a really important aspect of the Buddha's teachings, is that things are determined by causes and conditions, but the causes and conditions are constantly changing. And so that it's only through wisdom and clarity that we can find a way through that to end that process. And so that nothing is absolutely determined. It's not that there aren't causes and conditions in play already, but those are in a process of change as well. So that the Buddha was very important. It said, this is a teaching on kamma, but kamma in the Buddha's sense is just action. It's important to recognize that when the Buddha says kamma, in Pali, that is the verb to do. It's not about doctrines of past lives or past conditions. It's just that if we do something, there is a result. And so that we can be building the causes for changing our condition. And we can do that. And some things are in place, but everything is so unsure. And it's the ability of the mind to be clear and to have wisdom that can make the skillful choices. And that's the opportunity, that's the wisdom that the Buddha is giving to us, is the opportunity to make wise choices in our life. Yeah?
Anjaliya Chan, it's really nice to see you again here, especially in India. So we know today is Uposatha, so most of the lay people, they have took 8 precepts. So as a monastic, we know how important the precepts are, but the lay people who are newly coming to the Dhamma, they really want to have the 8 precepts, the Uposatha. but they find it really difficult to keep that 8 precepts. So yesterday when I was having this Dhamma discussion with my lay devotees, one of the ladies, she asked like, I really want to do it, but it's like, it's really difficult to keep the 8 precepts. And she asked me funny question, is like, do you have any trick or any idea how I can keep the 8 precepts? And I say, yeah, I don't have any trick or any idea about that. So please, can you guide something for lay people? Thank you.
Well, I think one of the things is the keeping the 8 precepts is something that the Buddha gave. Again, everything is about training, so that you get motivated to keep the 8 precepts because you've been keeping the 5 precepts. You realize you see the benefit that comes from keeping the precepts. And even in the Buddha's time, the Buddha didn't expect the lay people to be keeping 8 precepts all the time. It was always an uposatha sila, so the sila for the uposatha day. And then, so that for a day and a night, people could be keeping the, and there's a beautiful discourse where the Buddha is reflecting on what can I do for the lay people, because they're sincere. And he said, what if for a day and a night the lay people lived like the arahants? And so then it was, oh, well, the arahants lived not taking the life of any living creature, not taking what isn't given, so the 5 precepts, but then they also have a restraint with the food, so not eating in the afternoon until from noon till dawn, not going to shows and distractions, and keeping a standard of simplicity. So then, if the lay people did that for a day and a night, they could live like the arahants. So so the commitment is only to a day and a night. The reality also, once you've been training in that for a while, then you start saying, I really like living simply like this. Maybe I'll keep the 8 precepts all the time. So it's coming from an internal appreciation and wish to fulfill that, rather than coming from an ideal down and pushing down on you.
Thank you, Ajahn.
Thank you, Venerable. I think this is now a great opportunity to talk about the causes and conditions. The Buddhas that are around the temple, there are 220 Buddhas, one right behind you,
Yes.
and one in the behind. These Buddhas have an intention to be spread throughout India, to villagers, to viharas that do not have Buddha statues. And so collectively this year we came together with our friends and asked for us to join together to sponsor these Buddhas. And tonight I would like to just honor those people who will be leaving tomorrow and ask them to come forward. They happen to be from Thailand, and so the cause and condition for you being in Thailand, but also from devotees with a beautiful heart, and also my dear friend Joel, who's just come from America. So the cause and condition for him to be here with his Thai lovely girlfriend, the cause and condition for them to be happy, for all of us to create this Buddha field. I feel that this field of the Buddha's teachings, creating a mandala with the Sangha in the middle, preserving the teachings of the Pali, may these conditions ripen here under this Bodhi tree with great masters like yourselves, reminding us that we can awaken in this lifetime to the Dhamma. So I would like for them to come forward and I will read their names. But this black Buddha was made in Orissa, and this is for you, Ajahn. It's a little heavy. We have the box for you, but if you don't mind to take it back to wherever you go as a symbolic memory of our time together.
Absolutely.
And to make a connection to Orissa, where we're also trying to bring back the Dhamma to the Diamond Triangle. So maybe there would be an opportunity to connect to the Diamond Triangle. So may I request the Black Buddha Metta statues, Kanapon, Ratanajakon, Cherapon, Pakapol, Pakev, Tekasol, Nitarat, and Tanayan. I'm sorry, my pronunciation is not so good. Chukadem Ton Nasakak and family. Prane Rakasawan, dedicated merit to Chalam and Anan Rakasong. So all of you may come here and offer the Buddha statue, and there is a string here. You might have noticed there's a string connecting every Buddha. So Joel, you offered 100 of these Buddha statues to go to all the Buddha viharas. And so may this wish together under this Bodhi tree be dedicated to many, many viharas awakening to the teachings of the Buddha. Also at the same time, Mahabodhi Society of Bangalore, they produced a beautiful book on how to pay respect to the Buddha, Dhamma, and Sangha. And every vihara will receive that. So, Pra Ampul, may I ask you to please come forward? And also, Nina, please you come here. Oh, please. If you could, because I want you to pronounce the name correctly. My name is not so good.
Thank you very much วังโม Dixie ขออนุโมทนาคณะศรัทธาชาวไทยซึ่งอยู่สวิตเซอร์แลนด์ครับพระเดชพระคุณเป็นลูกศิษย์ของหลวงพ่อเจียมชยมังคโลที่ท่านเดินธุดงค์แล้วออกมาที่ถนนรังสิตแล้วก็รถชนท่านมรณภาพครับประยุทธ์เป็นเปลี่ยนธรรม9ประโยคนะครับท่านไปอยู่สวิตเซอร์แลนด์หลายปีได้รวบรวมในนามของคนไทยได้28องค์ครับพระพุทธรูปแล้วก็พุทธรูปเพื่อถวายนี้ได้15องค์แล้วก็เก้าอี้ได้อีก 2,000 ตัวคณะนี้เป็นคณะแรกดังนั้นก็จะนิมนต์ท่านเปลี่ยนธรรม9ประโยคนะครับได้นำกล่าว Now I would like to invite Venerable พระมหาสมภค He is a 9th grade for the highest of Pali language in Thailand. He come to help us about Tipitaka chanting, read us to chanting every year. He finished PhD from Aurangabad University. Many years ago, he went to Switzerland to be Dhammatut in that country. And his disciple too come to this place. And the first time for them to support, I tell them, please help. Next year is not only 220, want to more than 500 to support Indian Bhikkhu Sangha. Now I would like to invite Venerable. He invite Deva very nice. I would like to invite him to invite Deva to come to join us. Tomorrow, that is Thai National Day, the great ceremony for us too. ก็จะขอนิมนต์ท่านพระมหาสมภคซึ่งอัญเชิญเทวดาแบบวัดเบญจมาบพิตรได้เป็นเรียกว่าแนวทางที่ไพเราะมากครับพระเดชพระคุณหลวงพ่อครับตอนไหนนี่เลยสมันตาจักวาเรสุอัตตระขาชันตุเทวตาสัทธมังมุนิราชาสะสุนันตุสักขโมขะทัง
สักเคกาเมจะรูเปคิริสิคารตะเตจันตะเลเกวิมาเนทิเปราเตจะราเมตรุวนาคหะเนเคหะวัตุมิเขตนาเตภูมิมาจยันตุเดวาชารธาอรวิสเมยาขังคันทัพพนาคาติดท่านตาสันติเกยังมุนิวารวจนังสาตโวเมสุนันตุธรรมัสสาวนาคาโลอายัมพทันตาธรรมัสสาวนาคาโลอายัมพทันตาธรรมัสสาวนาคาโลอายัมพทันตาต่อไปก็จะได้นำญาติโยมกล่าวคำถวายพระพุทธรูปเป็นลำดับสืบต่อไปเอาว่านะโมสามจบพร้อมกันนะโมตัสสะภะคะวะโตอะระหะโตสัมมาสัมพุทธัสสะนะโมตัสสะภะคะวะโตอะระหะโตสัมมาสัมพุทธัสสะนะโมตัสสะภะคะวะโตอะระหะโตสัมมาสัมพุทธัสสะอิมังมะยังพันเตพุทธปฏิมากรังสังคัสสะโอโนชยามะอายติงสาสนัสสะอติโรจนายะจะถาวรายะจะสาธุโนพันเตภิกขุสังโฆอิมังพุทธปฏิมากรังปฏิคันหาตุอัมหากังทีคารตังหิตายะสุขายะนิพพานายะจะข้าแต่พระภิกษุสงฆ์ผู้เจริญข้าพระเจ้าทั้งหลายขอน้อมถวายซึ่งพระพุทธรูปนี้แด่พระภิกษุสงฆ์เพื่อความรุ่งเรืองและความถาวรแห่งพระพุทธศาสนาต่อไปขอพระภิกษุสงฆ์โปรดจงรับซึ่งพระพุทธรูปนี้ของข้าพเจ้าทั้งหลายเพื่อประโยชน์เพื่อความสุขเพื่อมรรคผลนิพพานแก่ข้าพเจ้าทั้งหลายตลอดกาลนานเทอญสาธุสาธุสาธุอนุโมทามิ
ก็ม้วนได้สายสิญจน์กลับก็จะขอเจริญพรเชิญโยมกนกพรโยมสวยกับโยมปราณีเนาะซึ่งทั้งสองท่านได้สร้างพระพุทธเมตตาด้วยแล้วก็สร้างหลวงพ่อดำWe would like to invite Kanok Porn and Prani on behalf of sponsor